Hello, everyone. Hope you are having a good time at the conference, making some good connections. I've been part of a lot of discussions, a lot of good ideas, great collaboration potential here. Today, for this panel, I have an embarrassment of riches. I have industry leaders representing health system, medtech, and a payer organization. As I've learned over the last few days, lots of innovation going on their ends in their respective organizations. So before we start, if you wouldn't mind just quickly introducing yourselves so the audience knows who we are.
Yeah, hello. Rob Drusi, work for Adventus Health. I'm our Chief Technology Officer. Adventus Health, provider-based organization. We're also faith-based, predominantly serving communities within California, some in Portland, and also in Hawaii. Thank you.
Hey everyone, good morning. Lucilla Rostelli. 18 years with the General Electric family of companies, most recently 6 years with GE Healthcare as the Global Chief Information Officer for our Integrated Supply Chain and Global Services. Loved hearing all the GE stuff in Kevin's keynote this morning, so a little proud person here. But really excited for the next 30 minutes with my peers here. Thank you for the invite.
Hi everyone, Russ Scoville. I run enterprise data and strategy for CareSource, which is a rapidly expanding not-for-profit healthcare payer in the Medicaid, Medicare segment of healthcare. And I have to say, this was one of the most inspiring kickoffs that Dave from ServiceNow did. That was just an inspirational moment, and I'm honored to be here to talk about the innovations that we're doing in our industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Nishant. I'm a managing partner at Avasant. In my role working with healthcare executives, it's been my privilege to witness the journey of identifying what transformations would make the most sense to patient experience, operational efficiencies, tracing the journeys and it's not that easy in healthcare. From a consumer perspective, it does sometimes feel like we are a little bit more deliberate in the way we make changes, the pace at which we make changes. But it's necessary because in healthcare, you don't get second chances. The cost of failure is immense, is unimaginable. Now, of course, the future is, looks extremely promising because with the new technologies coming up, the new capabilities coming up in the ecosystem and environment, there is a lot that we can do to impact the quality of care, care management, the patient experience. But before we kind of jump into what lies ahead and what can we hope to see in the next maybe 4, 5, 10 years, I would want to ground ourselves in where we are. What are the exciting developments that are happening right now, where the rubber is really hitting the road? And despite us having to verify, re-verify, test the heck out of anything, what all have we been able to accomplish and all the exciting stuff that's happening today, right? Not just in the future. So, Rob, I'll probably start with you. All the technology investments that you've been making in your organization, a lot of overlapping changes from core technology deployment at a foundational level to, of course, looking at embedded AI components, also AI point solutions. What would you say are some of the major objectives that you are trying to solve for operationally and then also as it pertains to the customer and patient journeys?
Yeah, so for Adventus Health, I mean, obviously as a provider organization, patient safety, patient quality, good outcomes, employee engagement, satisfaction of our clinical staff, and obviously satisfaction of all the support staff too on the back end. But for us, a lot of what we focus on now is laying the groundwork for enabling the future. So we've made strategic investments in technologies. We're implementing a new EHR that EHR is going to have a lot of functionality that will be provided by that provider relative to AI. We're working from a plumbing standpoint to make sure all the data is secure, and that, if you have large language models that are internal, that they're not seeing data they shouldn't. We're working on things like data literacy, data lineage, data quality, all those types of things. And we think that we'll see a curve upward very quickly once we're kind of at a tipping point where we can responsibly manage all the change. And we're also seeing point solutions come to us as well. So, like in the imaging space, folks have already started to come with solutions to help better diagnose things from that perspective. And even on, network and engineering type things, people are embedding AI. So it's kind of evolving.
So we hear a lot about agentic AI and how that can, not just perform a task, but kind of do a series of functions and really kind of replace a human from a broader perspective. Are you seeing real use cases within healthcare where it is, for all the obvious reasons, a little bit more difficult to deploy these technologies?
We do. So care coordination, referral management, those types of things, claim submission. A lot of business processes we do feel over the years, they're ripe for agents to help, certainly in the call center, those types of things. In terms of having multiple simultaneous agents collaborating together, I think that might be a little off, like 3-5 years out. It's definitely on the roadmap, kind of crawl, walk, run to get there. But yeah, we do see opportunities for it.
Lucilla, let me tee this up for you, right? When we talk about, or we dream about the healthcare of the future, a lot of those sci-fi-esque kind of scenarios come out of medtech, or at least medtech seems to be at the forefront of those. As it pertains to technology, the way it's developing today and what is already kind of in production or getting into production, are there examples of where some of that dream has started to become reality?
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So I can talk from, obviously, as you said, the medtech perspective. Most recently at GE Healthcare, obviously, putting patients and customers and humans first, a lot of innovation in this space. So I'd ask you guys, imagine a world, right, where a loved one, perhaps a mother or brother or sister, needs a trauma 1 ER, and there are two. One is 5 miles away and one is 50 miles away. Of course, you want that person transported to the one that's 5 miles away. Well, here's an interesting thing. If the CT scanner in that ER is down, that ER shuts down as a trauma 1 center. So your loved one will not be able to go there. They will be transported to the one that's 50 miles away. None of us wants that reality, right? So what are we doing as medtech providers to ensure that that doesn't happen? For GE Healthcare, we have 2 commercial products. Look them up, OnWatch and TubeWatch, and they're predictive analytics products. And what they do is monitor the device as a digital device. So think about your big iron, MRIs, CT scanners, etc., PET scans. They're monitoring that CT scanner in that ER to ensure that it's up. That's one thing. But to go even further, monitoring components to ensure that we can predict failure. And we've found at least a 35% increase in uptime through these AI and disruptive technologies. And what that translates to, right, at the end of the day, is a better experience for humanity. So that is one example of what's happening today. You can look at Siemens and other competitors in the industry, and you'll see very, very similar solutions. Medtech companies are even taking it to field engineers, right? So if we've now predicted a failure and we cannot remotely fix that failure, then we want to make sure that our heroes, those field engineers that are going to show up at those hospitals and surgery centers, have what they need, have the direct and immediate part that they need, right, to service that device first time. So then predicting that part based on the symptoms that we're seeing in the device and making sure that it's first time right to that FE, so that we can continue to provide that service. So, a lot of really tangible examples in the medtech industry. I can talk about manufacturing and using something like computer vision, for example, to ensure quality in the radiology images that are coming off devices. So lots of things are already happening, and I have some very interesting thoughts about what may come next as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that very quickly. So Russ, when we as patients need healthcare, right? Typically, the gateway to getting healthcare to our care journeys is through our payer, right? That's the first portal we hit to look for a physician or look for a diagnostics center. So a lot of the patient or member experience really rests on the great work that you do. What are you seeing as some of the most critical areas of improvement or areas of disruption there?
I personally see if you look at healthcare compared to some of the other industries in the market right now, compared to banking, compared to retail, we're 25, 30 years behind in the sense that to access care as a patient, you have to go into a brick and mortar facility, and the opportunities are there to digitize as much of that experience as possible and increase the access to care through deep customized member engagement and the ability for patients to be able to experience the same level of digital access that they have in other industries to promote more proactive care and be more involved in their own healthcare journeys. So I almost feel like we're standing just on the cusp of really breaking through that barrier of digitizing the experience and getting us out of the historic way that you have to go stand in line, wait in patient queues, and increase the overall experience through optimizing all the administrative overhead that comes with such a regulated industry like healthcare. There's just such a administrative burden that comes with manually inputting all the data that could be easily ascertained through a conversation, captured through AI, input directly into those systems, and then utilized in proactive patient care rather than reactive patient care. So I think it's a really exciting time, but it's a few years behind some of the other industries, and it's awesome to stand on the precipice of it.
So of course, there is a need to do a lot more testing and be a lot more rigorous when it comes to healthcare. Also, AI is inherently an imperfect technology. It can get us to perfect outcomes, but you have to deal with a certain rate of inaccuracy. Now, given that, and given the customer expectation of what they encounter with retail or entertainment and so on, are we able to build upon innovations that are happening in other industries? Or does a lot of this development have to be really healthcare native because of the specific use cases?
I think we're able to capitalize on some of the ideas, but because of the nature of patient safety, we have a responsibility and an accountability to ensure extremely high levels of accuracy before anything that would be involved in direct patient services or direct patient care is administered, which is one of the reasons that we think of shifting left as much of all the summarization of medical records, the ability to speed up some of the administrative processes that goes into the member experience, the patient experience, and increase that access to care from just a time, a speed to market, and having a human in the loop to ensure that is managed responsibly. So I think we have opportunities. I don't necessarily think we're going to be prescribing solutions directly through AI just yet, but I don't think we should be. The technology's not there yet, but it's coming.
Yes, as Kevin said in the morning, right? You need a doctor to sign off on a prescription. You cannot have AI do that. But Rob, that kind of brings me to another question around adoption. And is that is that something that the clinicians are taking up too? Because there is, of course, one, you can't have errors. Two, there is a pride of the profession saying, hey, I can take some assistance from AI. I cannot have AI lead me. Are you seeing more and more willingness and openness to even take those inputs? Like, Lucilla, you mentioned radiology, right? And the ability for AI to detect tumors or cancers and things like that. Are you seeing an uptake in reality when it comes to clinicians utilizing those technologies and what it promises?
Yeah, we certainly are. I mean, we are blessed to have a very technology savvy physician leadership team. So they're always pushing us in terms of what we can do to help them. So ambient listening, I think a lot of people are aware of that. Providers able to have the conversation with the patient, and when that conversation ends, their note can be automatically generated, and then the provider can look at it and decide if they need to make any tweaks. So that's certainly a efficiency. But from a data side, we see lots of interest in looking at the data and being able to help with better patient outcomes. That's something we can enable, but the providers are the ones that are going to use those tools. So they're coming to us with things like that. Again, we just from a scalability issue look to a lot of our partners to help deliver the large scale improvements like that. So from an EHR perspective, the EHR is incorporating a lot of those. It would take us lots of time to kind of generate that same functionality, and we already have the workflows inside the EHR, and so they're looking inside of there. Same thing on the ERP side, just switching topics a little bit, but same deal. I mean, the ERP vendors are all working to embed AI in their solutions, in the workflows they already use, and so we're working with them.
So it's the path to AI AI adoption kind of, is that coming from the technology end, or are we encountering problems that we want to solve, and then are we looking for technology solutions? And I'm asking that question because in other industries, you might be able to experiment a lot more easier with a specific POC, maybe run some pilots and then try to bring things into production. The confidence that the technology is really there to start replacing a human or start replacing some of the functions that experts provide, is that a barrier to adoption? And how do you overcome that or push through that as a technology leader in the firm?
Yeah, I can jump in here. Look, it starts with us, right? It starts with the people in this room. We're in our seats for a reason. And adoption is about culture. It's about education and culture. And dare I say, risk management is the other really important component of this. Many of us are in professions, and dare I say, all of us are in professions that impact humanity in some way or the other. But it starts with us, and it starts with the acknowledgement of where we are on our own journeys and what we're going to model for our organizations. Because if we're not comfortable using AI appropriately in our own experiences, there's no way we can expect our teams, our customers, our patients to be using that. So I think the things to really consider, and I resonated with the education piece of the people piece that we were talking about earlier during the keynote, is really educating people first so that we can manage this feeling of, are we going to be replaced? Do we know enough? This insecurity that comes with the fast pace of AI. I think the first thing we have to do is provide enough education so that we remove the fear. That will increase adoption. In many of our industries that are highly, highly regulated, your point about not being able to quickly do a POC and bring something to to production really just raises the intensity and the quality of what we need to deliver. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So I see adoption as starting with culture first, leaders first, education first, and then ensuring that we provide the tools in a way that's completely risk mitigated for the industry that we're actually participating in.
Absolutely. Russ, Rob, you
Nishan,
want to add?
I'm gonna beg permission to go off script here and
Absolutely.
see if I can get an interactive component here. Everybody here in the audience participates in the healthcare environment in some way, shape, or form. How many people, just by a quick show of hands, want their care to be managed entirely by artificial intelligence? In a room full of technologists, nobody. How many people here want their doctor to have all the tools that artificial intelligence brings to inform them to help your care get managed the best way possible? Almost everybody in the room. And that comes down to trust. That comes down to trust in your physician, trust in your caregiver, but we want to give them all the tools necessary, all the tools available, all the tools we can dream up to help inform that care that they provide for you. They're still the provider, but we want them to be enabled with it. And then I think overcoming that fear and that adoption challenges that we were talking about is all about trust. And you still maintain the trust in your caregivers, but getting your caregivers to have trust in the technology
Right.
is kind of where the next generation will come from, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and that's, and I don't think that fear or that trust, the need to build that trust is unique to healthcare alone, right? When we talk about any of those licensed professions, the practitioner needs to really start trusting that the technology is consistently giving them valuable assist before they start to really adopt it in their day-to-day, and it starts to move the needle from a productivity perspective. I was doing a similar panel about 2 or 3 years back, and at that time, we were talking about the promise of AI. We were talking about, if we look forward, what are all the areas where we might start to see some impact of AI in healthcare. Based on this discussion and our earlier interactions, that is happening, right? It's starting to happen. Yes, we may not see it across the board in all use cases or all our interactions with health, but it's definitely starting to happen. Some of it is in the background, which will start to come forth more obviously going forward. But as innovators and as leaders pushing for some of these transformations, if you were to look, let's say 3 to 5 years ahead, let's say we were having the same session in 2028, what do you think we'll be talking about in terms of the achievements we've already made and the new problems or the next level of problems that we are trying to solve for? You can go in any order, just an open topic.
Well, I'll kick us off and I'll be super vulnerable here with the audience. And, the concept I was talking about a little while ago, like the shame of our own irrelevance, right? And how we address that and how we learn and grow. So real on-the-spot, real-time example here. So we were asked, this question recently, like a few minutes ago, like, how would you think about disruption in the future? And honestly, my own thoughts were not at the right level. I was not satisfied with what I was going to, impart here to the audience. And so I picked up my phone and went to Copilot and said, hey, if we were talking about, AI being disruptive in the year 2028, like, give me some great examples in the healthcare industry. And honestly, it returned some examples that were pretty mundane and mediocre and not satisfactory. I was like, let's up the ante here. Like, what if it was 2035? And it gave me some great examples, and I'll tell you, one really hit home for me. And I'm not embarrassed to say I used the technology, right, to generate the ideas, because that's what we need to do, you guys. We need to model this, and we need to make the assessments, as I said, for our teams and our customers and our patients. So the great example, gave me 3 examples, but the one that I love is the idea of embedding nano AI. So you think about nano AI, right? We do a lot of it with, close to device, so that we're not bringing all the information back to the mothership to process, right? So we already have this concept of nano AI or mini AI. But the concept here that Copilot suggested was embedding nano AI into the brain to assist patients with dementia and Alzheimer's with cognitive and executive function. Like, that really hits home for me because, we have this in my family. So, yeah, that's one example. I can talk about the other two, but thank you to Copilot.
Rob, you want to?
Yeah. I'm assuming if we came back in 5 years, we'd be having some sort of the same discussion, just at maybe a different context. But for us, we would be wanting to drive better patient outcomes, better satisfaction. I do think from an AI perspective, it'll be more prevalent with the patient. And kind of like you were talking about a co-pilot to a certain degree, patients will have someone AI that they can use to help with their care and ask questions to as well outside of their provider. And that'll be pretty fantastic. Other thing I think we'll see in 5 years is that different roles within the organization, everyone will kind of have a digital twin, kind of a sidekick that helps them be more productive. I don't know if the goal is always going to be eliminate positions, decrease cost. I think there's kind of a balance with that. So you're always going to need people, but if you can make folks more productive, expand what they do with AI, I mean, that's a great thing for all of us. So I think we'll be talking about that a lot more.
And the first thing that comes to mind for me is, Apple Watches can take EKGs, wearable technologies can run tests that you've never been able to run before. And, if you consider the next generation of that, you might be able to do, blood testing, proactive blood testing, and AI-informed sort of devices at home where you've got integrated access to care that's much more proactive than reactive. If you were monitoring things like blood sugar or adherence to medications and effectiveness of prescription medicine, and be able to make much more informed decisions up front and get out ahead of things for proactive care. I see that being sort of a next generation of where technology could lead us in 2028, 2035, as far out as we'd like to look.
I think that's well said, because the ultimate dream here is not to treat patients better. It's to make sure they don't get into health issues. So to the extent we can be predictive about it. We use self-healing systems for our IT networks and infrastructure and so on. The dream is to be able to do it to ourselves and be forever healthy. So on that note, would like to really thank the panelists here. 30 minutes is never enough to talk about the future of healthcare, something which is, probably the most core and personal to all of us. But thanks a lot for all the insights and ideas you shared with us. Hope you all had some fun and were able to glean some insights from this session. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Nishant.